Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Shall we take another fun trip through Korean history? Today, we're learning about episode 2 of Infinite Korean History, Gojoseon, the first nation of the Korean people. A fascinating myth is coming up, so pay close attention. Every great civilization that built a society has one thing in common. They all have stories about gods, known as myths. From the 4 major ancient civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, and China, to even the smallest nations, myths exist everywhere. Famous Western myths include Greek, Roman, and Norse mythology.
I'm Zeus, the strongest king of gods in Greek myths.
And I'm Thor, the hero of Norse myths who also appears in the Avengers.
These myths often become the subjects of movies or novels. Stories about gods are always mysterious and fantastic. They are full of things that seem impossible. That's why many people think myths are just made-up stories. But that's not true. In times when people didn't understand nature well and had no writing, myths served as important history books that captured how people lived. Korea also has many mysterious myths and beautiful legends just like other countries. The most famous and representative one is the Dangun Myth.
My myth tells the story of how Gojoseon, the first nation of the Korean people, was founded.
If you follow the interesting story of the Dangun Myth, you'll understand how Korea's first nation was made and what life was like for the Korean people back then.
I see the people I must care for down there.
Look, someone is coming down from the heavens.
Now, let's start the real story. The first story of Gojoseon, the Dangun Myth. It's the Dangun Myth. There's a fascinating myth about how Gojoseon was born. I'll tell you the story of the Dangun Myth right now.
To know the beginning of Korean history, you must know my story first.
Long, long ago, after the world was created, all sorts of animals and people lived on the land. At that time, people survived by hunting or gathering fruits.
Stop right there! Would you stop if you were me?
Meanwhile, Hwanung, the son of Hwanin, who is the Lord of Heaven, was watching this from above. Hwanung was more interested in the human world than what was happening in heaven. Seeing humans constantly suffering from hunger, Hwanung wanted to help them.
I want to help the people on Earth live better lives.
One day, Hwanung went to his father, Hwanin, and told him he wanted to live in the human world. At first, his father was surprised and worried.
I want to go down and live on Earth.
Oh, my head. You're giving me a headache.
But Hwanung didn't change his mind.
I cannot stop you. I will send you with heavenly treasures and the seeds of life. Go and build a great nation.
Hwanung descended with 3 gods who control the forces of nature. Hungbae, the master of wind, Usa, the master of rain, and the master of clouds, Unsa. A few days later, the gates of heaven opened, and Hwanung, the 3 gods, and many officials descended to earth. They settled on a wide area of Mount Baeksan and called it Sinsi, which means the holy city. From then on, Hwanung began to govern the people.
Let's build a wonderful nation here together.
Live well, my son.
Hwanung and the nature gods taught the people about the changing weather and how to farm. He also taught them about laws, rewarding the good and punishing the bad. Rumors about the wonderful city of Sinsi quickly spread in all directions.
When clouds gather like that, The weather will be great tomorrow. Got it?
Follow me, and I'll teach you how to farm.
From now on, if you do something wrong, you will definitely be punished.
Everyone is learning well.
This news even reached the animals.
Wait for me.
A bear and a tiger living on Mount Taebeksan knelt before Hwanung and said they wanted to become human and live in Cincy. Everyone was surprised and against it, but Hwanung decided to grant their earnest wish. He gave them a handful of mugwort and 20 cloves of garlic.
If you stay in a cave for 100 days and eat only this mugwort and garlic, you will become human.
The bear and the tiger went into the cave as Hwanung told them.
Garlic and mugwort? I'm not meant to be a vegetarian.
Ugh, this is so bitter and spicy. A few days later, the tiger couldn't take it anymore and ran out of the cave.
I can't stand this any longer.
But the bear stayed alone and endured the pain. On the 21st day, the cave was filled with a mysterious energy, and a beam of light wrapped around the bear. In that moment, something amazing happened. The bear transformed into a beautiful woman. Oh, I can feel my body changing. Hwanung was delighted and named her Unyo. However, the people didn't easily accept Unyo because she used to be a bear. So she was often lonely. Every day, Unyo prayed earnestly under the Shindansu, which is the holy tree, to have a child. She wanted to become a true mother to the people. Please let me have a child, I pray to you. Hwanung watched her for a long time and finally made a decision. He decided to marry the kind-hearted Unyo. The people were shocked by the news. A short while later, Hwanung and Unyo had a grand wedding.
From this day on, you are my wife.
What a wonderful couple. 10 months later, a son was born to Hwanung and Unyo. He was a child born with the energy of both heaven and earth. Hwanung named him Dangun Myth. Dangun grew up to be a wise and clever young man. One day, Dangun Myth wanted to establish a new nation where people could live happily. Just like his father Hwanung did, his father gladly gave him permission. Dangun Myth left Cincy with many followers and set out toward a new land. The Son of Heaven is building a new nation here. Let's go. In the year 2333 BC, Dangun Myth finally founded a nation called Joseon. This is Gojoseon, the first nation of the Korean people. He established the national ideology of 홍익인간, which means to broadly benefit the human world. Dangun Myth also designated October 3rd, the day his father Hwanung descended from heaven, as Kicheonjeol, National Foundation Day, so the people would never forget the will of heaven. That's the end of the fun story of the Dangun Myth. In the next part, I'll tell you the meaning behind this myth. The second story of Gojoseon. The reality of Gojoseon. Now that you know the Dangun Myth, are you curious about what kind of nation Gojoseon really was? Remember when I said myths are like history books? If we follow the hints hidden in the myth, we can discover how Gojoseon was born and what life was like. The story of the Dangun Myth is recorded in a book called 삼국유사, Memorabilia of the Three Kingdoms, written by the monk Ireon during the Goryeo dynasty in the 13th century. This book is full of myths and legends from the founding of Gojoseon to the Three Kingdoms period.
The 삼국유사 I wrote is full of exciting stories.
So, what have historians discovered through the Dangun myth? First, we should notice that Hwanung is the son of Hwanin. This shows that the ruling class of Gojoseon claimed to be descendants of heaven. This made the people proud that their nation was founded by a special person. Historians believe that people from the north with Bronze Age culture migrated south and founded Gojoseon. The three treasures Hwanin gave Hwanung are called Chombuin, the three heavenly seals, and they were all made of bronze. Because of this, we think the founders of Gojoseon possessed Bronze Age civilization.
These three items, the bronze dagger, mirror, and bell, are the Chonbuin.
And remember how Hwanung was accompanied by the gods of wind, rain, and clouds. These natural phenomena are essential for farming. This part of the myth tells us that Gojoseon was an agricultural society.
I thought it was going to rain, and it actually is.
So what about the story of the bear and the tiger? Back then, people considered nature and animals sacred. Some tribes even worshiped bears and tigers.
We are the tiger tribe.
We are the bear tribe.
As we can see from the myth, both tribes wanted to live in Cincy, but unfortunately, the tiger tribe couldn't adapt. We can think of it as the bear tribe successfully adapting to Hwanung's agricultural society and living together. Lastly, Dangun wasn't just a simple name. In Gojoseon, the religious leader responsible for rituals was called Dangun, and the political leader who governed the people was called Wangom. A leader who performed both roles was called Dangun Wangom.
A priest in charge of rituals is a Dangun. A representative who rules the people is a Wangom.
So there were actually many Dangun Wangom throughout Gojoseon's history. Now that we've looked at the myth again, you understand Gojoseon a bit better, right? We've already covered the second story. We've learned about the Dangun myth and the birth of the Korean people's first nation. Through the hidden meanings in the myth, we were able to understand what kind of country Gojoseon was. Wasn't it interesting to explore these stories? In the next episode, we will dive deeper into the actual history of Gojoseon. We'll learn about what we must remember regarding Gojoseon society and how it developed and eventually disappeared. Please look forward to the next Gojoseon story. Bye!